We're alive, but every day we become more like insects pretending to be human. Have you ever stopped to think about how your daily routine resembles that of an ant following an invisible path? We wake up at the same time, eat the same things, go to the same places, talk about the same things. It's as if our bodies are still here, but something important inside us is falling asleep. As if beneath our colorful clothes, our skin is turning into a hard, dark shell. Can you feel it? That strange feeling that despite all our modern gadgets and beautiful clothes, we're moving more and more like little programmed robots, following orders without question. Franz Kafka, a writer who lived long ago, recognized this danger before the rest of us. He saw that we might still look like people on the outside, but inside we'd be transforming into something else, something less human, something more mechanical. As if what makes us special, our dreams, our imagination, our ability to feel deeply, was slowly disappearing without us even realizing it. That's the real horror. Not that one day we might wake up like insects, but that we're already living like them without even noticing. Kafka's metaphor in The Metamorphosis has gone from being distant literature to a portrait of modern everyday life. Have you heard of this book? In it, a man named Gregor Samsa wakes up one day transformed into a giant insect. It sounds like a horror story, doesn't it? But look around you. People wake up, get dressed, and go to work, but no longer recognize themselves in the mirror. The shock is no longer in the physical transformation, but in how we no longer feel like ourselves. Imagine you have a wooden doll that, every day, loses a little piece of itself. First a finger, then an arm, until one day it no longer looks like the same doll. This is how many adults feel today, as if they are losing little pieces of themselves, day after day, until they no longer know who they are. This video is an invitation to understand what we're becoming. It's not just more content for you to watch while you wait for time to pass. It's a mirror we'll hold together to see who we truly are, or what we're failing to be. If you feel you need to better understand this emptiness that sometimes appears within us, even when everything seems to be going well, please subscribe and like. What you hear may change the way you view your own routine. Think about the people around you, your parents, teachers, neighbors. How many of them seem to just be repeating movements as if following an invisible manual? Wake up, work, check your phone, sleep. Wake up, work, check your phone, sleep. Like a dance that has lost its rhythm and joy, leaving only the mechanical steps. Kafka saw this danger over 100 years ago, when the world was very different. He didn't know about the internet, smartphones, or social media, but he already understood how people could become flesh and blood machines, simply following orders and forgetting about themselves. I'll be with you through the end of this journey. Together, let's understand why this metamorphosis occurs and, more importantly, how we can prevent it from completing its cycle in our lives. The individual who feels the dehumanization of life perceives the emptiness of automatic tasks. It's like having a superpower no one asked for, the ability to see that many of the things we do have no true meaning. While most obey and repeat, some feel their human skin is merely a costume hiding the rigidity of a body shrunken and crushed by the weight of existence. Have you ever had that strange feeling, in the middle of a class or when everyone is doing something normal, that something is wrong? As if you could stop time for a second and ask, why are we all doing this? This simple question is like a small light that turns on in a dark room. Most people live without asking this question. They go with the flow, like water flowing down a river, without questioning where they're going. Think of an anthill. Each ant knows exactly what it's supposed to do. Some carry food, some build tunnels, some protect the queen. They never stop to question their purpose or whether they'd like to do something different. They're programmed to fulfill their role. Now imagine if one of these ants suddenly started asking itself, why am I carrying this leaf? What would happen if I decided not to carry any more leaves? Who decided this is my role? This is the rare trait, the ability to stop and question what seems normal to everyone. It's as if most people are sleeping with their eyes open, while some can actually see. Have you ever noticed how adults often say, that's just the way it is, or that's just how life is? These phrases are like little invisible prisons. They teach us to accept without question, to transform ourselves into obedient insects. A person with this rare trait feels a constant discomfort, as if they're wearing clothes that don't fit properly. They look in the mirror and wonder, who is this person? Is this really who I want to be? Or am I just playing a role they've given me? This special sensitivity is both a gift and a curse. A gift because it allows us to see beyond appearances, beyond what everyone accepts as normal. A curse because those who see it can rarely go back to not seeing it. It's like learning to read. Once you learn, you can no longer look at letters and pretend they're just meaningless drawings. But those who realize this pay dearly. Isolation sets in, a feeling of not belonging, the pain of being seen as an outsider. Clarity turns into heaviness. Imagine yourself as the only person awake in a room full of sleeping people. You try to wake them, but they simply mumble something incoherent and continue sleeping. Over time, you begin to wonder if it wouldn't be easier to simply go back to sleep too. When you start questioning the routines everyone mindlessly follows, those around you can feel uncomfortable. It's as if you're pointing out that the emperor is naked, when everyone else has agreed to pretend he's dressed in magnificent clothes. You start to be seen as problematic, strange, and difficult. Think about how peers treat that child who always asks questions no one else thinks to ask, or how adults look strangely at those who question traditions that exist because it's always been that way. This is the price of difference, the loneliness of seeing what others don't. The writer Kafka experienced this isolation in his own life. He felt different, out of place, as if he were a stranger even in his own home. This sense of not belonging fueled his stories, especially the Metamorphosis, where Gregor Samsa transforms into an insect and his own family begins to reject him. Have you ever felt this way? Like you had thoughts no one else could understand? Like no matter how hard you try to explain what you're feeling, words are never enough? If so, write in the comments how this realization affects you. Share with us a moment when you felt like a stranger in a familiar world. This feeling of estrangement isn't a flaw of yours. On the contrary, it may be a sign that you haven't completely lost your humanity in a world that encourages everyone to behave like efficient little machines. It's a sign that, beneath the formal clothes we wear every day, there's still something genuinely human struggling to breathe. The price of difference is high, but the cost of giving it up can be even higher, becoming completely an insect in human clothing, forever losing connection to what truly matters. In Kafka's work, Gregor Samsa wakes up transformed into an insect and realizes he's no longer useful to his family or worthy of affection. Can you imagine waking up one day to discover your body has completely changed? That you can no longer do the things you used to? That the people you love now look at you with fear and disgust? This is Gregor's situation in Kafka's story. Before his transformation, he was a salesman who worked hard to support his family. He didn't particularly enjoy the work, but he did it because it was his duty. He woke up early every day, took trains, and visited clients, all to ensure his family had a comfortable life. He was valued only for what he did, not for who he was. When Gregor transforms into a giant insect, he loses his ability to work. Suddenly, he can no longer leave the house, can no longer earn money, can no longer be useful. And what happens? His family, who once depended on him, begins to treat him as a problem, a burden, something shameful that needs to be hidden. This metaphor captures what many experience today: the worker reduced to a function, the student crushed by expectations, the human being who loses value when he or she doesn't produce. Think about the adults around you. How many times have you heard them introduce themselves by saying what they do, not who they are? I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I'm a driver, as if their profession defined the entire person. And in schools, students are often valued only for their grades, not for their curiosity, creativity, or kindness. A student who gets low grades may feel like Gregor, like they're less valuable, like a problem to be solved. Gregor Samsa's story shows us the horror of being reduced to a function. When he can no longer work, his family sees him as useless. Gradually, they stop treating him like a member of the family and start treating him like a thing. They remove the furniture from his room, stop cleaning the space, and give him scraps of food. It's as if to say, if you can no longer serve us, you don't deserve to be treated like a human being. Isn't that how many people feel today? Invisible when they're not producing something, disposable when they don't meet expectations, as if their human worth depends only on what they can do for others, not on who they truly are. Gregor's tragedy wasn't turning into an insect. It was discovering that, in a way, he was already treated like one even before his physical transformation, just a useful cog in a familial and social machine. The hidden mechanism is that of a society that turns people into disposable cogs. Imagine a huge machine with thousands of parts. Each part has a specific place and function. If a part stops working, it's simply replaced with an identical one. No one mourns the broken part. No one misses it. The machine needs to keep running, and that's all that matters. This is a reflection of how our society often works. Life, when measured solely by utility, robs us of our dignity. Gradually, the human becomes nothing more than a body dressed to disguise emptiness, an insect in clothes. Think about schools. They often function as factories for human parts. All students are expected to learn the same things, at the same pace, in the same way. Those who don't fit into this system are seen as problems. But is the problem really with the children who think differently, or with the system that tries to make them all the same? Psychoanalysts, who study the deepest human thoughts and feelings, have a name for this: alienation. It's when we become strangers to ourselves. We do things without understanding why. We follow rules without question. We live lives we didn't truly choose. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, spoke about how we often repress our true desires and thoughts to fit in with society. Over time, we can even forget who we really are, what we truly want. We begin to wear a mask so often that we forget the face beneath it. Kafka, with his story of a man transformed into an insect, shows us the end result of this process. We lose our humanity and become mere functions. Gregor Samsa is no longer a son, a brother, a human being with dreams and desires. He is merely a provider who has failed in his role. Look around you. How many people do you know who seem to just be functioning? They go to work, come home, watch TV, sleep, and do it all again the next day. Their eyes look empty. Their conversations are about nothing important. Their days are all the same. Isn't it as if they've turned into insects in human clothing? Existentialism, a philosophy that emerged after Kafka, addresses precisely this: how to find meaning and authenticity in a world that tries to transform us into objects. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus argued that we need to create our own meaning, make conscious choices, and resist the temptation to simply go with the flow. This is the profound explanation of what is happening to us. A society focused only on production and consumption ends up producing human beings who feel empty, who have lost connection with what makes them truly human: the ability to feel, to create, to question, to care deeply about something beyond surviving one day after the next. Anyone who tries to resist this logic is seen as lazy, rebellious, and inadequate. Think about how we react when someone says, "I don't want to spend my whole life working on something I don't care about, just to buy things I don't need." Most people would look askance or say that person is too much of a dreamer or doesn't understand how the world works. Society rejects anyone who dares to question this metamorphosis. It's as if there's a silent agreement. We'll all pretend this life makes sense, that we're happy following these rules, that it's okay to feel empty inside as long as we look good on the outside. When someone breaks this agreement, conflict arises. People feel threatened, even without understanding exactly why. It's as if someone turned on a light in a dark room where everyone agreed to pretend they can see perfectly. In Kafka's story, when Gregor transforms into an insect, his family is horrified. They can't accept this new reality. Over time, they treat him worse and worse, hiding him from their neighbors, ignoring his needs, wishing he would simply disappear. It's not because they're evil, but because Gregor, in his new form, represents a truth they don't want to face, that perhaps they are all already, somehow transformed into insects inside, merely maintaining human appearance. Psychoanalysts talk about how we develop defense mechanisms to avoid uncomfortable truths. We deny what we don't want to see, project our problems onto others, rationalize behaviors that deep down we know don't make sense, all to maintain the illusion that we're in control, that our lives have meaning, that we're fully human and not insects in disguise. When a person begins to question these collective illusions, they become a threat. Not because they're dangerous, but because they force others to look at truths they'd rather ignore. Like when a child asks something adults don't want to answer, and everyone becomes uncomfortable, quickly changing the subject. Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever noticed something that seemed wrong, questioned it, and been treated as if the problem were you, not the situation? If so, write the word in the comments. Lucidity to show that you too have felt this abyss hidden behind the routine. Conflict with the collective is inevitable for those beginning to awaken. But remember, it's not you who's crazy for questioning. The real madness lies in continuing to do the same things day after day, hoping that somehow they'll start bringing happiness and meaning when they never did before. The greatest risk isn't being different, but getting lost in this machine, becoming completely submissive, living a life that isn't yours until you forget you were ever human. This is the turning point. The metamorphosis isn't physical, it's existential. Imagine a person who, from a young age, learns to follow rules without question. At school, they raise their hand to speak, ask permission to go to the bathroom, and study subjects they didn't choose. At home, they follow routines established by others. When you grow up, you choose a career based on what will bring you money or status, not on what you truly love. They get married because it's time, have children because it's expected, buy a house, a car, and trendy clothes, all to show they're successful by standards they've never questioned. Years pass. One day, this person looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize who they see. It's not just that they've aged, it's that they've never truly lived their own life. They've lived a borrowed life, following a script written by others. The real danger isn't social rejection for being different. It's this living death, this slow erasure of what makes us unique. In psychoanalysis, we talk about how we create a false persona to adapt to social expectations. Over time, we can mistake this mask for our true face. We begin to believe that we are only what others expect us to be. Our true essence, our authentic desires, our passions, our questions, is buried so deep that it almost disappears. Kafka demonstrated this danger in his stories. In The Metamorphosis, Gregor doesn't just physically transform into an insect. He was already transforming beforehand, losing his humanity by living merely as a function, a cog in the family machine. The physical transformation merely made visible what was already happening inside. This is the true horror. Not that we wake up one day transformed into giant cockroaches, but that we are already living like cockroaches without realizing it, following predetermined paths, reacting automatically to stimuli, living to work and consume, without questioning, without creating, without truly connecting deeply with other human beings. Existentialist philosopher Martin Heidegger called this inauthentic existence, when we live on autopilot, following what everyone else does, thinks, and values, without ever asking what we ourselves really want or believe. The danger isn't just external. It's not just demanding bosses, tight schedules, and bills to pay. The real danger lies within, the possibility of surrendering, of finding it easier to stop thinking, questioning, and feeling, of voluntarily becoming insects inside, even while maintaining our human appearance. The way out isn't to escape the world, but to reclaim the inner flame that makes us human, transforming pain into awareness, finding meaning in small gestures, and refusing to be just a cog in a machine that doesn't recognize us. We don't need to quit our jobs, flee to a distant mountain, or reject society altogether. The path is more subtle, and perhaps for that reason, more difficult. It's about being in the world without being entirely of it, participating but consciously, following some rules but questioning others, making small daily choices that affirm our humanity. Think of a garden. If you never tend it, weeds take over and the flowers die. Our humanity is like this garden. It needs constant attention, daily care. We can't simply expect it to flourish on its own in an environment that constantly tries to transform it into something mechanical and empty. Existentialists teach us that we are responsible for creating meaning in our lives. No one can do it for us. In a world that tries to turn us into insects, every act of creativity, every moment of true connection with another human being, every sincere question is an act of resistance. Psychoanalysis shows us the importance of knowing our inner world. Our dreams, fears, hidden desires, all of these are part of what makes us human. When we ignore this inner world, when we live only on the surface, we become hollow inside, insects with a human appearance. The path of transformation begins with small steps. Ask questions. Don't accept answers like, "It's like this because it's always been that way," or "Everyone does it that way." Find moments of silence and solitude. In a noisy and distracted world, we need spaces to hear our own inner voice. Cultivate genuine connections. Not superficial relationships based solely on convenience or utility, but encounters where you can truly be yourself. Pay attention to your dreams, both nighttime and daytime. They contain clues about who you really are and what you truly desire. Create something, anything, a drawing, a story, a song, a garden. The act of creating connects us with our essential humanity. Practice empathy. Seeing the world through another person's eyes reminds us that we are not alone, that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. Resist the temptation to always strive for more. More money, more status, more things. Ask yourself, what is truly enough? What truly brings me lasting joy? This path is not easy. There will be days when you feel weary, tempted to simply go with the flow, to become another insect in clothes. On those days, remember that you are not alone. Throughout history, men and women have struggled to maintain their humanity in circumstances far more difficult than ours. We're not insects in suits. We're humans who need to learn not to forget ourselves. This journey we've taken together isn't just about understanding a philosophical idea or a literary work. It's about looking at our own lives with more attentive eyes. Almost 100 years ago, Franz Kafka warned us about the danger of losing our humanity in an increasingly mechanical and impersonal world. Today, this danger is even greater. We live surrounded by screens that tell us what to think, what to desire, how to live. We are bombarded with messages that reduce our human complexity to simple functions: consume, produce, obey. But remember, no matter how strong the pressure to transform ourselves into insects in human clothing, we still have a choice. We can still awaken. We can still reclaim what makes us truly human: our ability to question, to create, to connect, to love, to seek meaning beyond the surface. It's not an easy path. There will be days when you feel alone, when it seems simpler to just go with the flow, do what everyone else does, think what everyone else thinks. On those days, remember that true courage lies not in fighting external monsters, but in facing the emptiness that tries to grow within us. Like Gregor Samsa, we may wake up one day and realize that something fundamental has changed. But unlike him, we can choose the direction of that change. We can choose to awaken to a fuller, more conscious, more authentic humanity, instead of falling asleep and becoming mechanical insects. Leave a comment with your thoughts on where in your life you feel you're already transforming. Where do you feel this pressure to be less human, to function like a machine, to forget who you truly are? Share your experience. In this exchange, we strengthen each other, reminding each other of our shared humanity. If this video touched something deep inside you, if it made you think about your own life in a new way, please like it and share it with anyone who also feels that something isn't right. Sometimes, all we need to begin a transformation is knowing that we're not alone, that others feel what we feel, that other people are also struggling to remain human in a world that tries to transform us into something else. Don't forget to watch the next video on the card, where we'll continue this conversation about how to keep our humanity alive in challenging times. Thank you for being here, for giving your time and attention to these reflections. In a world of endless distractions, the simple act of stopping and thinking deeply is already an act of resistance. It's already a step toward ensuring that when you look in the mirror tomorrow, you still recognize the human being looking back at you.